Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another ARG/analog horror coverage. We'll be covering Executive Shutdown, made by Dan BC Films and co-made by Mr. Manticore. And also don't forget to check out Dan's channel out, since he's the original creator of Executive Shutdown. He's put in a lot of effort into these ARGs for them to convey a certain type of artistic message. Honestly, I quite enjoyed this ARG, so yeah, without a doubt, be sure to give Dan a like and a subscribe. And yes, as I said earlier, this was co-made by Mr. Manticore, the individual who created the highly cryptid and viral Monument Mythos ARG, and basically all the ARGs that follow down the rabbit hole with Monument Mythos. Just as a disclaimer, I know this ARG is tied with politics, but let's all keep it civil in the comment section. This is again based on fiction, and yeah, honestly, keep it at a fun level, guys. It doesn't have to be too serious. Alright guys, for our first video that starts off the ARG is Joe Biden has an exosuit. I love the thumbnail and I love the title of this video. It really piques my curiosity and also has a more humoristic tone. And yeah, let's get right into it. Alright guys, well that's one killer handshake, I gotta say. Anyways, the video is mostly self-explanatory from what we can see. Biden basically got in a freak accident that as a result put him in a very powerful exosuit, but from what it seems that exosuit has changed his outlook on life, to say. For the better or for the worse, we still do not know yet. There isn't anything more to add to this, since the video mostly explains everything, other than I think this may also be a nudge towards the dark Brandon meme. But other than that, let's move towards the next video.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I'm proud to announce I have created an organism, such a beautiful organism. I wish you all could see it. It is, they tell me, the perfect organism. It's so good, this organism. It's a wonderful thing. And if you look, this is exactly what America needs right now. Our country is under attack, but this organism, this American organism, is so good. And maybe some people will complain about the Trump organism, but there's nothing they can do. Once I win, I will deploy the organism. I have the sound recording of the organism, which I will play now.
Alright guys, that was a very eerie sounding organism. We can pick out two really important things in this video. First is that the organism gets announced on November 15th, 2020, and America is under attack by something or someone. We do not know what that thing is. It's a really interesting title to say, and the thumbnail just makes it much better. Other than that, we don't have that much information, so let's move on to the next video.
I am Dan Cooper, and this is my prophecy, or rather, my explanation. I guess I should explain myself first. 20 years ago, I hijacked a plane and demanded $200,000 in cash, hard American currency. I escaped via the aft stairwell. I did not do this for money. I was trying to save the future. The day I turned 40, I received a vision. I saw a world laid waste. I saw hills prowling with bizarre beasts, creatures unlike anything I'd seen before. I saw dictators, goddamn fascists in my hometown. I saw the ashes of countless innocents blown away in the wind like autumn leaves. The sky was dark, dark as hell. It was the future, our future, my prophecy. So I forced to slow in the timeline. If a butterfly flapping its wings could make the winds blow a world away, imagine how much my actions could shift the flow of time. So I planned. For years I did. The perfect mystery. Some clues, but no real answers. It would shift the course of history, change the future. At least one of them. Of course, I had no way of knowing if this new future would be better than any future I prophesized. But it would be different, and that was enough for me. So I did the job.
Alright guys, for me to explain this really important video in the ARG, first I need to give a short summary of the real D.B. Cooper in our universe. During a Thanksgiving Eve of November 24th, 1971, D.B. Cooper has successfully managed to hijack a Boeing 727 and demand $200,000 in cash, with 4 parachutes included, which the authorities gave to him. After acquiring those parachutes, it allowed him to escape without any trace of himself via paratrooping off the plane after the plane took off. After that, a nationwide search occurred, but the FBI failed to find D.B. Cooper, and he was presumed to be dead. But however, he's still on the wanted list till today. There have been multiple suspects that fill D.B. Cooper's criteria, and the more prominent ones are war veterans of the Vietnam War. Alright, with that short summary gone, I think a really important thing we can get from this video is the quote.
If a butterfly flapping its wings could make the winds blow a world away, imagine how much my actions could shift the flow of time.
This may be a reference to the chaos theory, or also called the butterfly effect. This theory is a mathematical theory that is still in development and far from our understanding, but however, most people in the world widely accept it to some level as a superstition, where the actions of a small event could lead to a catastrophic large-scale event. Now, in the Dan BC Films universe, we can point out that in this universe, D.B. Cooper incident was delayed for 3 years. Since the year of this recording was given to CNN was 1994, which logically, minus 20 years of 1994 is 1974. In these 3 additional years is probably when D.B. Cooper was making his master universe altering plan, where he managed to make Trump get an organism and Biden get an exosuit. But however, that's speculation until we finish watching the ARG. I think we can make the connection that Dan BC Films stands for D.B. Cooper. Honestly, may imply that this YouTube channel is a stepping stone for D.B. Cooper's new altered universe. Other than that, let's get on to the next video.
The Cheney suit has 3,000 points of articulation. The Cheney suit provides the user maximum flexibility and mobility. The Cheney suit has a stretch factor of 1,200 square miles. The Cheney suit is bulletproof and cannot tear. The Cheney suit can withstand tank fire and ground-to-air missiles. The Cheney suit recycles the user's perspiration and can provide ice crystals when needed.
The Mr. Manticore rabbit hole is a rabbit hole that once you enter it, you start to hear, see, and speak things that cannot be defined with common logic. With that, we have to take a quick little detour and enter some parts of the Manticore's lair. This video is uploaded on Mr. Manticore's channel, and if I remember correctly, this is the video that gave some traction to Dan's channel. Dick Cheney historically was the Secretary of Defense for the Bush administration, and as well later on in his career, he was the Vice President of the United States of America, which he was called the most powerful Vice President of his time. However, in the Cooper universe, it seems that he has been put in one of these exosuits or is the creator of these exosuits. This leads me to believe that the exosuits have been around since the 90s. The footage that we're given with possibly is a nod to Desert Storm, which Desert Storm was around the 90s. On a side tangent real quick, can we just visualize how big this thing is? Basically, the gray suit is 1,200 square miles, which is tremendously tall. Additionally, it's bulletproof, which can survive tank fire and any type of ordnance, and apparently it can generate ice crystals from the breath of the user. Dick Cheney throws ice crystals at his enemies. I gotta say, this is the most American weapon of mass destruction that has ever been created. Later on in the video, we find out that gray means gem retrieval and assimilation yank suit. Gem is a very pivotal point in this ARG. I think these gems will hold a significant value down the ARG. Another really important detail is that this is an exosuit that's made by the White House. It doesn't say made by the military or anything like that, just made by the White House. I think that's a very big difference. And finally, we are given these very ambiguous quotes. Fishing is not evil, nor is it good, and who are we fighting? Both implying neutral connotations where the context matters if we are fishing to provide food or be wasteful for the environment, whether if we're fighting evil or we are the evil itself.
Well, he was massive, a giant, really. I'd clock him at 15, maybe 16 feet. Though I heard rumors of him getting a whole lot bigger. There were a lot of unknowns with this guy. He never stuck around in one place for too long.
The big guy? Man, I heard some fucked up shit about that guy. Some real fucked up shit. He seemed to enjoy fighting. Never seemed afraid of dying. I've heard stories of the shit he did to locals. Advanced interrogation, he called it. And then he spent all his downtime collecting these weird gray rocks. He was weird, dude. Just a weird, fucked up guy.
I talked to him once. I asked why he was here, what he was after. I remember he said, "I like you, kid, so I'll let you in on a secret. There is oil out here, sure, but there's something a lot more valuable too. More valuable than gold or diamond. Power. Pure, unrefined. Hiding in plain sight."
Alright guys, so we're given more of a in the field perspective of this gray suit. And as we can see, everyone is weirded out by this big dude just walking around the desert and just giving advanced interrogations to people. However, this big dude has a big purpose, and that's not collecting oil for the US government. No, but it's collecting power crystals, which these power crystals fuel the sea synths. From what we can understand, C-Synth stands for Cheney Synthetic Humanoid, interesting point is that this suit is made apparently separately, and a Cheney needs to be inserted inside the suit. Maybe they also make separate synthetic humanoids to put them inside of these suits. That's a very interesting design to say. Very human. C-Sense have control chips which allow them to be piloted by someone else. And we find out for a very split second, this little secret frame, that the pilot room is located in Cheney's secret office. I think this is a very interesting key detail in the ARG lore. Before we move on to the next video, one really important thing to notice is the characters. And one crucial character that's coming up right now is Edna Zane. She seems to be a reoccurring character in this ARG. In the previous video, we see her as the captain and the author of the Gray Suit newsletter, while in this one, she's a corporal. Could this possibly be a before footage when these gray suits got deployed for the first time? This was Edna's first-hand experience, aka the thing she wrote down in the newsletter. It could be possible. Other than that, let's move on to the next video.
What the fuck is that? Is that Biden?
I think so. Look at his suit. It's of Yank origin.
Of course. Sure, that makes total fucking sense.
Let's take a look at these controls. See whose side he's on.
Ah, fuck. He's alive. Get the hell back.
This is Emperor Unit. Got a live one here. It's Biden. Over.
Well, he knows his name at least.
I'm not Biden.
Shit.
Who the hell are you? I'm the second manager. Russia? No. We're on the same coin. We're on the same coin.
I say we shoot this fucker and ask questions later. No offense, Mr. President.
He's gotta be a clown. He's never this cold. Let me out here. Let me out.
Ah, shit, he's got a lock on my method.
We got him.
I fucking can't. I fucking...
This is the second and last video uploaded by the Mr. Manticore channel, and we have some really interesting turn of events in this video. We see Edna Zane again, and as well Sage Newton becomes an important character in the storyline. Sage Newton is the individual that talked to the Big Dick Cheney in the previous video, and possibly this could allude that after he had that conversation, he got dragged down into this government rabbit hole alongside with Edna. Edna Zane and Sage Newton possibly had some type of relationship while they're doing this type of C-synth work, to say, since they seem to be inside of this organization called Emperor Unit. This may be a military unit that controls these C-synths and whatnot. The coin thing that negative Biden references could be a thing where in this universe there's a positive Biden and, as the video title, a negative Biden. And also possibly the USA isn't the only country that has these types of C-synth technologies, where these C-synths also have intelligence of their own, to say, where without the control chip they can make their own independent thoughts and whatnot, which is very interesting. Other than that, let's move on to the next video. Oh no, negative Biden, don't squash the innocent Amazon employees that are striking. Exosuit Joe Biden comes in and destroys negative Biden. This was a really epic battle of the Bidens. That's pretty much it. That's what the video is. I think one thing I was right on is what I said earlier, that both of the Bidens are like a coin. One is positive Biden and one is negative Biden. Let's move on to the next video. Can I just take this moment to appreciate how good this ARG is? With the music, storytelling, and visuals, I'm honestly really having a fun time with this ARG. And honestly, props to Dan BC Films for being able to make a joke ARG have a deep, well-crafted story, and being able to convey that story to a higher degree than it just being a shitpost. So in this video, we are introduced with Desantis' main agenda and the blueprints of his contraption that he is using. With this, we can understand that these power crystals aren't just used for C-Sense, but also for other devices, such as this mind-reading device. How about we take a look at the contraption that Desantis is using, and that's the Panopticon Cap. From my knowledge, the Panopticon is a circular prison where these cells are arranged around a central tower to the point where the guards could constantly observe prisoners. And I think this is a very smart way of Dan BC Films telling us that this contraption can read people's minds, and possibly with the text at the end implies that more individuals than just Desantis have this technology. Kind of obvious. But with that, we can conclude that these crystals are very valuable to the government. So for this video, we see Mecha Biden does his State of the Union and manages to pull a Teddy Roosevelt alongside of it. But the big difference is that he has bulletproof sunglasses. One interesting thing is that we see another technology made by these power crystals, and it's some type of laser gun. We do not know what this laser gun is other than they try to laser Biden. One really important thing is we can notice Biden's character development, and he's becoming more hardlined or growing a more thicker skin to say. And also on a side tangent, isn't this lady called MAGA lady or something like that? She looks very similar to the MAGA lady, and if that's the case, I find it extremely comedical that Dan decided to put her in this ARG universe. Other than that, I don't have too much to point out on this ARG, so let's go to the next one.
Und Jift Country Hugger Job like not fifth. Except over free edge of Jiff, but you give we were few to full free Wef, fies gezef.
Looks like Trump has stumbled inside of Cheney's secret office, and coincidentally inside of his office there was a 200 feet tall vast variant of the organism packed inside of a box. Thanks to this commenter translating the wingdings, we can now understand that Trump forcefully took this organism. This also confirms my thoughts again that the organisms are able to have intelligence on their own, and for some reason they have an expiration date. I don't know what that expiration date means. Other than that, there isn't too much to say. Maybe these numbers on the specimen are important later down the series. I have no clue. I find it an extremely funny parody where Trump just slapped his label over something that somebody else has made, but other than that, let's move on to the next video.
Mr. President, there's been an accident, but you're okay.
4 computers now have primary control of critical functions.
This video is the origin story of negative Biden. It seems sometime around the 2020 incident where that crater happened, Biden lost his arm. And while he lost his arm, someone took it and decided to basically clone Biden and turn him into an evil version of himself. that is funded by all these big corporations of the US of A. This is why negative Biden attacked those Amazon protesters, because he is a prodigy of these big American corporations. But luckily we have our knight in shining armor, Exosuit Biden, to stop his evil meddling. One final thing I could say about this video is that possibly the corporations were the ones that grabbed Biden's arm and decided to make an evil clone of him. Other than that, let's continue to the next video. The Trump organism rises from Trump's evil lair called Mar-a-Lago. Its main mission is to strike the people who have misjudged Donald Trump. But however, Exosuit Biden swoops in and saves the day. With his advanced intelligence, he takes out the organism in 2 moves, grabbing the beast's control chip and setting it free in the heartless cold waters of New York. What a way to end season. That was season 1, guys. I honestly can't say it enough, but can we just appreciate how Dan BC has crafted such a really creative ARG/analog horror that on the surface it looks like a shitpost, but when you look into it, it's just a very well crafted story with intrigue and the meaning to what it's conveying. I really like this, unironically. So yeah, guys, be sure to give Dan BC Films a subscribe and check out the videos yourselves. Maybe you guys might find out something that I missed on. Other than that, let's take a little break before we continue on to season 2.
That soldier is dead!
How could this happen? Medic! Go! Back home!
Ah! Dummkopfs!
Da! Very well!
On today's news, shockingly, soldier has managed to blow up Heavy's 4th of July supply that he was shipping to him in his Cybertruck in front of the White House. Heavy approval ratings are plummeting. People are voting for Sniper. Everyone hates Heavy.
Not usually my job, but... Bomb! Go!
Everybody ready?
I have planned for you. More pain. Killing you is full-time job now.
Alright guys, welcome back to season 2 of this ARG. Hopefully you enjoyed that skit. If you guys enjoy the content that I make, be sure to give a like and a subscribe. And also if you want to give me recommendations on ARGs or have your own theories, we have a ARG section on my Discord where we discuss ARGs and potentially give out theories on what these ARGs may be or whatnot. So be sure to check that out. Other than that, let's get right into it.
Proletarian power suit was designed and built by the Exosuit Cooperative. The Proletarian power suit is knife-proof and resistant to fire. The Proletarian power suit can synthesize and administer first aid supplies as required. The Proletarian power suit contains a collectively owned ballot. The Proletarian power suit can send and receive thought messages on a mutually voluntary basis.
This video implies when industry planned Biden attacked the protesters, it wasn't his first time. So as a counter, they made exosuits for protesters. And it has all the necessities if another incident were to happen again. The important thing I can point out is that this is potentially the same company that made Biden's exosuit.
The problem with Ron DeSanctimonious is that he needs a personality transplant, and those are not yet available.
There's a saying, never meet your idols, or for this is never become your idols. However, I think this video is trying to give us a red herring that Ron DeSantis was trying to copy Trump's style or whatnot. But in reality, I think the real reason he became very tall and decided to put those fumes up his nose and whatnot, I think he was trying to brainwash Trump's organism, or potentially read Trump's mind. That is why he says it helps him see better. This video leaves a lot of room for speculation in the lore of this ARG, to be honest. Additionally, after researching into what gubernatorial means, it means governor. So the governor got toppled by the organism at the end. Possibly if Ron DeSantis had an evil scheme, it got quickly cut short by the organism.
In the early weeks of operation, the facility experienced a minor ant infestation. I say minor because we on the first floor didn't notice anything out of place at all. The little critters tortured only the second floor researchers. That's where the chemistry department was, and we came to the conclusion that the ants were attracted by a particular molecular signature that was accidentally synthesized. A sugary byproduct which was crystallizing all along the windowsills. I suppose they found it sweet. We could not have them contaminating the lab, of course. Instead, we placed them in a terrarium. It must be said that transferring the entire colony was no easy feat, but it was worth it, I think. The ants make wonderful mascots, remarkable creatures. The things that they can accomplish are nothing short of incredible. And despite our human naming conventions, the queen ant, in fact, holds no power over the workers. No. They are all collaborators.
See, the suits we produce, they harness bioenergy. There's a kind of synergy to it. Each wearer is stronger as a part of the grid than on their own. It has its own kind of awareness, a class consciousness. As a result, no one individual can wield power unilaterally.
When Biden arrived after the accident, we went to work at once, placing him in one of our more advanced exosuits. I do not believe that anyone in the government truly wanted to bring him here. They would have happily placed the president in a Yank suit, but with the state of his injuries, the location of the accident, it happened that we were the only ones close enough to provide aid. To those outside of the lab, the exosuit is merely a mechanical extension. They see it as a simple physical expansion of raw human strength. They say it's useful for combat, but they fail to see the applications beyond greed and violence. In the lab, we understand the truth of the exosuit. It isn't a weapon. It's a beacon by and for the people. The president cannot use its power unless he is acting in the interests of everyday working people. At first, Biden said he understood. I know he didn't. No political authority on this bastard soil could possibly understand on their own. I could see in his eye that he was still looking for loopholes. He called the meeting adjourned twice before I finally saw the glint in his eye. The recognition of the fact that the president was fighting for more than just the government and its subjects. And if he wanted to use it, he would have to change his approach. It all came from an old Superman cartoon, really. It was rotoscope, so beautiful and fluid, scary realistic too. This episode had Superman fight these giant marching robots. They snatched people like cats catching mice. So fast, violent. Then they escaped to the sky. At that moment, I simultaneously felt the excitement of flight, robotics, and power. I suppose that is where my fascination with power began. I had dreams of a Superman who would come save us all. It was comforting, I must admit. But let me be clear. The president is no Superman. They never have been. I have a new dream now. Every man a Superman.
I've been to so many protests over the years, I think I've lost count. I remember the first one was against the war in Vietnam. This would have been early 70s. I was so young back then. There's always a lot of young people at protests. Makes sense. They have energy, health, high. Most of all, they have hope. I always wonder how many of them will be back for the next one. Because there is always a next one. It does not end, not ever. There's always another injustice that demands action. Some people don't make it past that realization. I hope that you will join us at the next one.
Every man a Superman. This is a reference of the real-life quote from the Louisiana politician Huey Long. Every man a king. And what we can understand from this is that Exosuit Cooperative believes in redistributing powers to the population. That is why later on they made an Exosuit variant for all activists and protesters. The cartoon that is referenced by Kurt Steps is Superman and the Mechanical Monster in 1941. The premise of the cartoon is the classic good versus bad battle where these undestroyable robots all of a sudden start roaming around and start stealing from the government. But then Superman swoops in and is able to defeat these technological advancements and rescue the damsel in distress. The meaning behind this cartoon is to show the potential threats that technology poses, how humans can create something that is unstoppable and where it can be used for somebody's selfish desires, like stealing valuables from the government. Back to the ARG, we're also explained that Joe Biden's suit cannot be used for any selfish intent. This is also why Joe Biden is pushing a very strongman stance on his political agenda, since basically it's how his exosuit works. He needs approval from his population for him to be able to use his unlimited powers. He needs basically ways to sway the population. Negative Biden is a byproduct of the Yangtze technology, where that technology was intended for military operations, but then somehow later on it was handed out to the mega corporations of the US, which those mega corporations are misusing this technology to their own benefit. Finally, the end sequence is also an analogy of the video, where it gives a broader narrative on how these exosuits work. They're basically an extension of the population, where the population are the ones that have this power, and the more people that have this exosuit, the more power is generated. After a hard battle with Biden, Trump and his organism was ultimately defeated. With his odds against him, Trump decides to accept his fate and take the plea bargain, solidifying himself as a bitter loser in all of his efforts. His sentence is 400 years in suspended animation. But will 400 years in suspended animation really do it? Because he'll just wake up and become the next generation's problem. During Trump's suspension, we get to see what happens to the world after 400 years. And surprisingly, it's very ironic because Biden just passes away. That is extremely ironic since this ARG starts with Biden and then he just passes away in his sleep just like that. I guess he had one killer nightmare. With Biden passing away, the fever dream of every man a Superman is over, since after Biden passing away, Exosuit Co-op decides to shut down as well. This is very interesting that Exosuit Co-op closes after Biden passing away. If we remember from the last episode, the scientists were very disapproving of Biden using the exosuit, or Biden being the hero. It seems they had some type of love and hate relationship and ultimately closed after Biden passed away, which is extremely ironic. Global warming happens, people start to lose their houses due to the rising tides, and nations decide to give up on their international efforts and focus more for themselves. That is why they isolate themselves. The American Holy War happens with the establishment of the American Holy Empire, and they go on a crusade to liberate the isolated governments. This may also imply that the events of the Nixon-verse are somehow canonically tied with executive shutdown, which is very interesting, but also maybe everybody took the every man a superhero idea to the extreme, and that's why everybody became a crusader. Those are some two interesting theories that I can come up with. American hegemony shatters and a conflict in Australia happens. I think the reason for this is if we go all the way back in these episodes, we notice that the power crystals usually originate around deserty areas, and Australia is known to have a big desert in the middle of it, so possibly Australia has a large stash of power crystals. Sino-Russian Cold War ends and nations around the world decide to ban the use of crystals, which is very surprising, but we don't know if they banned the use of military crystals. Maybe people were using them recreationally. That is a possibility. Society is rebuilt after all the wars and Brazil becomes a world power. An unknown individual called Mr. Mime becomes the dictator of Western America. I tried searching up or looking back at the episodes of what Mr. Mime may be, but I have no clue who or what Mr. Mime is. I think he will become a very important character. Florida, surprisingly, is still around and it turned into an archipelago, which is basically small connected islands. And ultimately, the American Empire is disunited. It's split between smaller nations, one of the more prominent ones being the East American Syndicate. Kaiserreich reference, anybody? And to what we can understand, the tensions are so high between those American nations that they resort to using couriers as a form of communication. 2424 will be a very big and important year in this universe. As Adam Seifus said,
because there is always a next one. It does not end, not ever.
And with that, we are continuing to the next episode. I don't think I have any theories around this one since it's titled also Interlude. I think more so this video is trying to show us how the Couriers work. So let's go to the next episode.
Hello? Howdy.
Ah, greetings. Welcome to Elon.
You must be, Gatekeeper Musk, right?
Ah, indeed. I will need your pedigree papers.
Oh, sorry, I don't have those. See,
I see. In that case, I will need a verified DNA test to confirm your Musk heritage.
I'm not a Musk. I'm here because...
I see. Barbarians like yourself are not allowed here. Not past 1900, at least.
Barbarians, right. Right, yes. No. See, I'm with the Couriers. I'm here to pick up a parcel.
What?
Yes, we're allowed in after hours if we're picking up a parcel. We have special permission. Here, I have my Courier ID here, and here is the work order for the pickup.
Oh! You're picking up something from Tiberius Musk.
Yes.
Wow. Maximus, could you come here for a moment?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Indeed, Kronos, what is it?
Well, there's someone claiming to be a courier here.
Indeed, greetings. Welcome to Elon. Sorry for my 6th degree friend here. It is his first day. I'm a 5th degree myself. Now, you have papers, I assume.
Yeah, right here. Thank you.
Indeed. Well, your papers appear to be in order. Make sure you follow these guidelines while inside.
I will make sure to do just that. Thank you. Take care now.
Goodbye.
This is why I love this ARG, guys. Honestly, a huge shout out to Dan BC Films for making a really cool ARG. So in the middle of all the American chaos, Elon Musk has decided to clone himself and create a dynasty of himself. The Musk Dynasty. We also noticed that the courier is called DC. I think this is a reference for Dan Cooper. So that makes me ask, is this Dan Cooper himself after 400 years? Or is this a descendant of Dan Cooper? It leaves a lot of room for speculation, honestly. And of course, we can't forget the big reveal, and that is our old friend that was sentenced for 400 years. It seems his sentencing may be over soon. Looks like he was hidden under Musk's lair after all. Maybe he'll be the unifier of this American empire, we don't know. One key thing to notice also is the names of the Musks. They might have some lore implications of how future episodes of the ARG will be, since they are tied to real-life important figures. Starting from Kronos is the name of a Greek titan that was the youngest amongst all the Greek gods, and his purpose was to be the cycle of fate, time, and power. Magnus Maximus was a very skilled and popular Roman general who usurped the power of the Western Roman Empire and declared himself emperor after overthrowing Emperor Gratian. And finally, Tiberius was the second Roman emperor right after the legendary Emperor Augustus. Emperor Tiberius ruled with an iron fist, using fear tactics and suppressing his opposition, which he also brought a lot of stability into the Roman Empire. This makes sense since Tiberius Musk is a second-degree Musk in charge of the Musk dynasty. We still do not know what happened to the original Elon Musk. While the courier is delivering his parcel, we are given a better perspective of how the Holy American Empire is. It's a vast esoteric place with strong biblical values and strictly adhering to the word. What is the word? Hopefully not the bird. The courier delivers his message and is sent towards the high priest Lazarus. Given that this individual is a priest, the name Lazarus comes from Saint Lazarus, which the story of Saint Lazarus symbolizes how Jesus has come to power over death and is able to resurrect his believers. And behold, in this alternate universe, they resurrect the Trump organism. I think my suspicion may be correct that these names are a hint of what is to come in the series. This is another parallel to our IRL history, how Emperor Tiberius maintained the stability within Rome. However, the big contradictory thing is that the IRL Emperor Tiberius did not use mythologies to maintain the rule of Rome. Rather it being Augustus that used mythologies. But however, Emperor Tiberius did use astrology to influence his politics. Alright guys, ARG is over. That was Executive Shutdown, the video. I'm only joking, we still need to go over analysis. I don't have too much to say about this other than it's really ironic how all the characters that we were introduced to just passed away all of a sudden, like Biden, our exo hero, passed away in his sleep, and Trump got pummeled by the Organism. But yeah, other than that, really nice ARG, props to Dan, and let's get right into analysis. Yo guys, what's up? Future Bath Doge here. When I was editing this video, Dan BC Films uploaded a new lore video, so let's watch that real quick before we get into analysis.
Mace, my friend, good to see you.
Grazit Yadan. Iber Yadrina In.
Get me a gin. Throw in a shot of that psycho pollen too. Strong stuff.
Ya Bravutir. Ya is Banba Couriers in.
Thinking of leaving the Couriers, actually.
Please, in.
Well, for the longest time it was nice, you know, the neutrality. The world of kings and politicians and bureaucrats all seems so big and abstract. Not worth engaging with. Not worth the energy. You know, I've seen some things that have changed my perspective a bit. Small things. People I have met. There's a community of workers in the syndicate coming together, throw out a corrupt boss. I saw a man in the Republic taking down signatures for a change of local ordinance. A neighborhood in the trade block helps a family whose breadwinner was laid off. Group of doubters quietly gather to voice new ideas in secret somewhere in the Holy American Empire. Simple acts of community, civil disobedience, small things. Maybe it isn't, but every big moment in history, the leaps forward and the slides back, it's the result of millions of those small things. Millions of community meetings, quiet acts of defiance, engaging with people right next to you. You know, that's how I think of it now. It is. Alright, that's enough preaching from me. How are things around here, Mace?
Iban Ba and Mort Aker Benny. Ot Saipa Fork It Te Rak Se Yuma.
It's the small things that matter in life. That's the message I'm understanding from this video. And the final video is the biggest lore drop in the ARG. It turns out my previous suspicions that this character being DB Cooper was half right. It's actually his descendant called Don Cooper. And much like DB Cooper, he shares a similar mindset of how these small things in life make a change. Like for example, a butterfly flapping its wings could make the world blow away. Other than that, guys, we will be entering the final part of this documentary video, and that is separated into two things. First being the story retelling part, which is my own creative interpretation of the whole Executive Shutdown story, narrated by my friend Haters Anonymous. Big shout out to his channel, and I really appreciate him for helping me out in this project. And finally, after we are done with this story retelling, we are going to do analysis.
Cooper prophecy foretold the unimaginable, an America unrecognizable, our land overrun with cannibals, some who are men like you and I, and some that are less natural. These visions haunted D.B. Cooper. He sought to avert this dark future, somehow by hijacking a commercial airliner. After he did the deed, Cooper never reappeared. The FBI did try to hunt him down, but they were never able to find him. All these long years later, despite the FBI spending large sums of both men and materials, he was a ghost. Without interviewing Cooper himself, we may never know if he accomplished his dark mission. We may never know the full details of the prophecy. But what we do know is nightmarish enough. Do we have any indication that the American government may perhaps be headed for a horrific future, such as the one Cooper prophesized? Could the monsters have belonged to the US government? There have been precedents in which US generals have disobeyed direct orders. The government intends to replace the military branch entirely, and there is a technology that fulfills that need. C-Synths, a terrible new invention in the never-ending war against terror. C-Synths are synthetic organisms, strong, untiring, and 100% compliant, unable to disobey any command due to the control chip implanted into each of their brains. Perfect for warfare, they were first deployed in Desert Storm as reinforcements to a vanguard position, and they did so with devastating results. They also horrified the US Army. Tall as buildings, emotionless, and relentlessly brutal. The C-Synths had one flaw, however. They required a rare power source, power crystals. The problem? These crystals could only be found in desert nations, and those nations refused to sell or surrender those crystals. Any slowdown to the C-Synth program would not be tolerated. The fuel would be taken by force. Company executives knew the crystals were located in mines. They just didn't know where. Normal soldiers were deployed and they captured the enemy. Their mission then was to extract these secret mining sites from the prisoners. When the enemy refused, that's when it was revealed that the C-Synths had more abilities than just combat. Not only were they capable of direct warfare, they also knew how to devastate a human mind. The interrogated started to question whether the war could be won. They've fought humans before, but not goddamn 50-foot invincible monsters. The enemy surrendered their information soon enough, and their screams still haunted anyone who heard them. After the soldiers came back home, they broadcasted the existence of these organisms to the public. The US government blocked these broadcasts. Undaunted, the soldiers gave interviews to independent reporters. The public knows. Reports of war crimes led to the creation of a task force, an oversight team dedicated to monitoring the C-Synths. Officially known as the Emperor Unit, they reported directly to the White House. Composed of seasoned military veterans, they would question the very nature of these organisms. Post-war, the organisms were returned to the White House, and the Emperor Unit was tasked with maintaining Yank suits inside of Cheney's secret office. But the technology was too powerful to remain locked away. The year is 2020. Trump's approval ratings have tanked below 50%. He is desperate to win re-election. Somehow, he discovered Dick Cheney's secret chamber of horrors, a plan bruised in his twisted mind. Joe Biden wins the election, but Trump is
The world is as angry as it gets. Well, you think this is going to cause a little more anger?
U.S. weapon cache has been broken into, and something has been stolen. Something highly classified. By 2022, Biden enacts a social policy that enrages conservatives. Trump seizes the moment, riling his supporters with fiery nationalism, and then he unveils his ultimate weapon, the organism. He lets the audience listen to the voice of the organism.
Oh my God!
It's not the only such incident over the last few weeks. Here's Julie.
They are horrified. It is the time.
I know how to tell the truth.
Biden champions his vision. Every man a superhero. During the 2022 Milwaukee Labor Fest, he calls out Trumpies. Before he can finish, an organism emerges from the crowd and stomps him into the ground. Gravely wounded, Biden is rushed to the only available technology capable of saving him. The Proletarian Power Suit. Despite protests from Exosuit representatives, the Secret Service overrides them. The US president must not die. Amid the chaos, a covert private organization steals Biden's severed arm. Trump, having stolen the organism, enlists Musk to reverse engineer the technology. Biden's arm becomes the missing piece in a horrifying experiment, the first stage of Trumpification. Days later, Biden recovers, emerging stronger than before. He condemns the Republicans. His speeches are more fiery than ever. The Democrats are convinced Trump was behind the organism attack. Meanwhile, Republican politicians like Ron DeSantis are seen with odd contraptions. The power crystals have become mainstream. As government agencies investigate, suspicion mounts against Trump. But without evidence, they reactivate a covert unit, the Emperor Unit. Sage Newton is sent to infiltrate Musk's research facility. Biden greenlights the Operation Enda Zane, and Sage Newton infiltrates the Musk facility, tracking the stolen organism. What they find shakes them to their very core. A clone of the president. Negative Biden awakes. Breaking free, the organism pursues them. Sage Newton is left behind, missing in action. Enda is heartbroken. During an Amazon employee strike, negative Biden emerges. The protesters, confused, look to their president for guidance, but he moves to strike them down. In a moment of heroism, Mecha Biden arrives, battling his monstrous counterpart. Their clash is epic, and in the end, negative Biden is forced to retreat. Coincidentally, after the battle, Enda Zane, still grieving Newton's loss, turns whistleblower, exposing the organism program to the press. The public erupts in outrage.
Trump and Musk have got to go!
Trump received a lot of backlash after the whistleblowing, facing mounting felonies and growing scandals of the organism. Enraged, he releases the organism, targeting his greatest annoyance, Ron DeSantis. The monstrous entity crushes DeSantis effortlessly. Trump grows overconfident, believing Biden will be just as easy. But as the organism reaches New York, Mecha Biden ends the fight in 3 decisive moves, striking the heart, extracting the control chip, and sending it plunging into the icy waters. At the State of the Union, Biden celebrates his victory. only for Lady MAGA to attempt assassination. His bulletproof glasses save him. To Biden, this confirms one thing: the Republicans cannot be trusted. Trump, cornered and defeated, takes a plea deal. His mugshot is taken on August 24th, and he is sentenced to 400 years in suspended animation. Every man is a superhero is a forgotten relic of history. The Exosuit Corporation collapsed after Biden's death, but a new force rises, the Musk Dynasty. In the year 2424, they seek to reunify America. Their moment has come. They awaken an old ally. Trump emerges into a world unrecognizable. America has endured centuries of turmoil. Mar-a-Lago lies beneath the ocean. Tiberius Musk offers Trump a path back to power, but power requires strength, and that strength lies within the lost organism. Trump embarks on a voyage to the Arctic. They find the lair of the creature, and in a final, ironic, but yet dramatic moment, Trump is crushed. The story began with Cooper. It ends with Cooper's descendant, wandering the wasteland of America, considering to follow the footsteps of his great ancestors' actions. The Cooper cycle repeats.
Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed that cinematic retelling of the story, and welcome to the analysis part of this video. We'll be focusing more on the commentary and trying to answer some holes in the ARG that were left behind. And since the story retelling explained us the chronology of Executive Shutdown, this might be a shorter analysis than any other of my ARG videos. So take a seat and get ready for some crazy theories, guys. To answer this question, I need to give you a very short summary of the Nixonverse. The Nixonverse is an ARG made by Mr. Manticore, where after Nixon resigned in 1974, he became a godlike figure, being able to go to the moon and back without a problem. And when this happened, the US became more deeply involved with paranormal and supernatural events. Cooper's incident happened in 1974, 20 years from 1994, when the Cooper prophecy was released. This means, and I heavily emphasize, Cooper was fed up.
I saw a world laid waste. I saw hills prowling with bizarre beasts. Creatures unlike anything I'd seen before. I saw dictators, goddamn fascists in my hometown. I saw the ashes of countless innocents blown away in the wind like autumn leaves. The sky was dark. Forced to swim a timeline. From what if I find what's worse to make the women's world away. Imagine how much my ashes have took the full time. Perfect mystery. Some clues, but no real answers.
John Glenn was the first human to stand against these supernatural beings, however, not the last. D.B. Cooper figured out his fate, so he delayed it for 3 years. And as a result of that, he caused a butterfly effect, splitting the timeline around him and separating him from the Nixonverse and creating a new executive shutdown. This connection also sets a precedent where people were not happy of these anomalous beings. And all it took is somebody powerful enough to throw a wrench at these creatures. For all the Mr. Manticore viewers, this is a big connection that just happened. The commentary that Cooper gives us in his prophecy perfectly sinks in. The monsters, the dictators, the ashes of innocence, all of this is a summary of the Nixonverse and the Monument mythos. He was fed up with it and made a copy of the timeline for it to become the executive shutdown. I mean, wasn't it obvious? Mr. Manticore made 2 videos for executive shutdown. He's always around these ARGs, creating odd connections to say. Season 1 of Executive Shutdown is showing us how this alternative Cooper world is. And Season 2 is the aftermath of this Cooper world. However, the ARG is not complete to my knowledge, so we are still left with a lot of open doors. After we established the Nixonverse connection, it all makes sense now. The people saw all these creatures and wanted to be able to stand up against them. Cooper may be one of the inspirations of the Exosuit Corp, since the way the employees of Exosuit talk, in a way it parodies the Cooper prophecy. Maybe he used that stolen money to fund Exosuit Corps, we can't exactly know, but it is possible. But basically the story of Executive Shutdown is the story of people being able to stand up against unfair odds, and when they can't stand up for themselves anymore, that's when everything else collapses around them. That's why every man a superhero was such a powerful saying. Because it lost the point of its existence. Exosuit Cooperative was built around the principle of creating a superhero, where their powers are only used when the people are endangered. The Exosuit was given to a politician, an individual whose whole career revolves around being able to understand people's issues and sway those issues to their own political needs, which as a result it gives the potential of unlimited power. This is why Exosuit Cooperative was against Biden being in the experimental suit. They wanted an individual who would have no ill intent at all. This is why in the ARG we see Biden constantly saying that he wants to fully eliminate the Republicans, but we never get an indication that he fully disbanded the Republicans. And finally, the creators of Exosuit Corp probably realized that giving everyone power isn't the best idea. I think the MIA in Sage's status is there for a reason, since I think the ARG is hinting to us that something else happened than death. Especially in the final video of the ARG where there's a character called Mace Newton, and for some reason he owns a swamp tavern. Well, Sage Newton turned into an organism and this is his descendant. I mean, if you listen to the way Mace Newton talks, it does resemble the way the Trump organism communicates as well. The organisms do have free will after all when the control chip is gone. Mace Newton will become a very important character for the future of this ARG. Possibly he might have some connection with the Trump organism, but we'll have to see. But other than that, I think Mace Newton is a very enigmatic character in this series and we don't have enough context for him. And for the final question of this ARG, I think that's a red herring, since it leads us to believe that happened to Trump. But if you look into the conversation between the priest and Musk, we get to understand that the organism absorbed Trump and the control chip. This could mean that Trump still lives on and that he'll probably appear again in the ARG playing an important part. The priest being so nonchalant about losing their asset could also mean that Trump organism absorbed the control chip, meaning the Musks are able to control the organism now. They essentially use Trump as the bait to reel in the organism towards the Musk dynasty. And additionally, we are left on a cliffhanger on negative Biden. I think he'll play an important role later on in the ARG, since we don't know what happened in the aftermath of the Exosuit Biden battle. I think these two characters will clash against each other in the future of this ARG. Alright guys, I'm gonna go a bit off script on this, so you're gonna hear a bit of an unrefined audio for this, but I really found the ARG enjoyable. It really replicates that feeling of watching a weird conspiracy video and then finding out even more about it. Like first starting off as a joke and then you're finding something crazier about the meaning behind this and whatnot. That kind of feeling I had when I first watched Mr. Manticore videos, or Alex Kansas to say. Like, I don't know if any of you guys remember House in the Ocean. There was this funny quote where the bushes get ambushed. Just that type of feeling of where the video starts off nonchalant, but then it becomes into super crazy or super interesting conspiracy. And this connection with the Nixon verse honestly blew me away. I didn't thought this would be connected with the Nixon verse. Big props to Dan BC Films. Keep in mind guys, this is my interpretation of the ARG, and every single ARG has their own unique clues and whatnot that everybody interprets, so hopefully I nailed it on the head. And finally, that's Executive Shutdown for now. It took me a long time to make this video, so be sure to give a like and a subscribe if you guys enjoyed the content. If you got any thoughts, be sure to drop a comment. And additionally, if you want to discuss your thoughts in more depth about these ARGs, be sure to check out my Discord server where we discuss ARGs. Huge shout out to the ARG Creators. And another huge shout out to the people who helped me elevate this video to a bit higher level of production value. Thank you guys, and hope you enjoyed the video.
This American boot just took your ass back to Russia.
Tell me, where did we go so wrong?